AbaThembu King Buyelekhaya Dalindyebo has lambasted top officials allegedly involved in criminal activities. In a sit-down interview with my colleague Aldrin Sampear, the King says it will take years to combat crime in the AbaThembu region because those who are in power are abusing it. This comes after extortion rackets are tearing through Mthatha in the Eastern Cape, turning lives upside down. Criminal gangs are targeting the vulnerable, demanding protection fees and threatening violence. Take a look.
Do you think that that political will could also be influenced by perhaps maybe some politicians being involved, allegedly, in these so-called extortions?
Of course, it's my consistent, claim that a lot of politicians benefit from criminal activities. You would be surprised how many politicians, top guns, that benefit from the drug circulation, the drug deals, you'd be surprised how politicians even benefit from extortion itself, because it is government officials together with politicians. They club up not to take the money the government is supposed to be taking to the public purse, and it goes to their own pockets, and they share it, and they defend each other. This is why sometimes when the police arrest people, politicians have a way of having them released, They have a way of influencing the justice system to malfunction for the freedom of thugs. And they have a way of actually pinning down those who are fighting crime and end up being, persecuted for their own actions while in their own duty. Now, how do you expect a person to perform with excellence if he's under threat? One mistake, you are in jail as a policeman. One mistake, you are in jail as a chief or a king. One mistake, you are in jail as an ordinary citizen, because some citizens do take up arms and fight these people. And then these people, when these citizens use whatever they have in their midst, or in their, they get harassed by the system. The system sees them as actually the outlaws or the breakers of law, blaming them for taking the law into their hands. I was jailed perhaps for the same thing. And it's happening again. Whether history repeats itself or not, I don't know. But if they're going to use kids' gloves in dealing with criminals who are heavily armed, then you are playing. No. You're playing games, you're playing toys, and this is no time for playing toys, because we've lost lives. People have died. People's homes have been burnt. People are getting robbed every day, and the system is silent. It involves people like the premiers. What can they say they've done to show that this is a menace? This is a threat to society. What have they done? We have spoken to people like Mthatha, the MEC of police and transport. He was silent during the taxi violence when the taxis closed down. Silent as if he's not even there. He is silent even right now, as if nothing is happening, as if nobody is crying tears from what has happened. How can you get hooligans come and butcher a teacher at school? And you call that chiefs or councillors? What other title might they have? Which title we are just forced to respect simply because these people are highly connected, simply because they know they are the last. The police apprehend and the justice system releases with no apparent good reasons. And that's what frustrates, because politicians rule from behind the desk, behind the curtain.
Do you think also, because in the last meeting that you had, the community meeting as well, after the incident that had happened at the school with the acting principal who was slapped, you also mentioned one of the chiefs around, who is accused of being involved in this extortion. Have you been able to reach out to him? Has he come to you? Has there been any conversation that has happened around how do you subject people to this type of violence?
You know, that chief that you're talking about, these guys, I ask them time and again to withdraw from these actions because sometimes they say they've got my mandate to do these things, and which mandate is never granted. And secondly, it is for us to take into cognizance that traditional leaders do not just mushroom, They come from a custom, from a tradition, from a practice. You don't simply come up with a new practice and you replace that original practice with your new systems. So we stick to our guns. If traditional leaders do not abide by the rule of law to keep peace in our communities, then they must be dismissed, especially if they become number one in perpetrating crime.
Have you found evidence to that effect?
There is a lot of evidence. That's why we fail to reason why the police don't act. Evidence is flowing all over. Evidence is in the eyes of even a stupid person.
Kumkani, in closing, what's your worst fear if law enforcement, as well as some people who are part of the traditional hierarchy, are not able to deal with the crime situation in your kingdom?
Before I deal with the fear, let me deal with what is called a dilemma, When the government pursues democracy, it seeks to annihilate the traditional systems so that it dominates to rule and control the people. As much as we all believe that we should win hearts and minds to be in power, but they do not end there. They induce, sometimes with terrible and horrible means, so that they get a better cling on the rule, which I believe is sinistrous, It now changes when you disarm the people, their ways of dealing with criminal situations. It means you want them to be observers. You are going to do it yourself. And along the way, you realize that you can't do it yourself. You need a partnership with the people. And it cannot just be a police forum partnership, It must be a living and a breathing partnership. A partnership that speaks to the people, a partnership that speaks to justice, and a partnership that speaks to law and order. It must be done. Our dilemma is that, or what we fear, our worst fear, is that, gentlemen, should this continue, should it happen, and should it win, should it gain ground, then the country is going to be ruled by criminals. And it might not be easy to restore the proper and credible and dignified leadership. We will be ruled by criminals who know nobody's, destitute. Now, what are these people about to take us to? Where do they want us to go? Who do they think gives them the audacity, the authority to simply assume control and rule our lives with so much threat and intimidation? We cannot stand for that no more. If they continue to kill our people, we will kill them back. If they continue to harass people, we will harass them back because we're capable of harassing as well. So they must stop harassing people and they must stop killing people for their criminal gains. And we would like that to come to an abrupt end because their time is over. We can sing no more songs to praise them. For whatever good they claim to have done, we only see nonsense. We only see wrath in what they do.
Yeah, well, that, of course, was Aldrin Sampear in conversation with the AbaThembu King, speaking to us about the issue of extortion in Mthatha and really what he'd like to see being done about it. But where are we now where law enforcement is concerned in cracking down on the issue, not just in the Eastern Cape, but in other parts of the province? But let's look at some of the stats right now and see just how big of a problem it is and also what's being done about it. You'd see here 722 construction suspects arrested since 2019. These, of course, construction industry, a lot of them called the construction mafia, that do extort from construction sites and companies wanting money, parts of the contracts, and also protection fees for those companies to continue to operate. 52 convicted since 2019, 52 convicts sentenced to a collective 89 years and 7 months in jail. So that is what has been achieved by law enforcement. But there are 91 mainly construction-related cases that are at the moment under investigation. You'd know, though, that this is across the country. So that's the amount of work that the government is doing at the moment to law enforcement, and 43 of the national tally coming from the Western Cape. So half of the investigations that are taking place on extortion and the, in some cases, construction mafia, half of those are coming from the Western Cape. But let's see what those numbers look like then in other provinces, right? 5 investigations taking place in Limpopo. Is that sufficient is the question, and are you happy with that number? If you are living in Limpopo, get onto X and let us know if you feel that that is sufficient, or is extortion becoming a bigger issue in Limpopo? No investigations taking place in the Northwest. Is that indicative of none of those cases existing in the province? Just 1 in the Free State. Again, 0 in Mpumalanga, 17 for KwaZulu-Natal, 6 for the Eastern Cape, even though we are looking at just the widespread reported extortion cases in Mthatha alone, yet 6 investigations taking place in the Eastern Cape, none in the Northern Cape, 43 in the Western Cape, and 19 in Gauteng. Those are the investigations taking place where extortion is concerned. Are you happy with those numbers, or do you feel that law enforcement and police are dropping the ball in some of these provinces? Let us know on X. The handle is at Newzroom 405. It's part of our megaphone poll as well. And if you'd like to send a comment, use the hashtag AM Report.